that even I am wrong sometimes. I then proceeded to be wrong about Uncharted 4, and what this proves is that I am actually never wrong. Uncharted 4 is one of the best games ever made. Don't even try to argue otherwise. Remember, I can never be wrong, but back then I was wrong, and I'm gonna prove it. In my old review, I said Uncharted 4 has the most boring climbing ever. This is more true for the first 3 Uncharted games. In those games, the climbing is very stiff and mostly there so that the player can spend time looking at the pretty graphics. Uncharted 4's climbing is faster and much more satisfying in its presentation. When you land on a wooden floor, you hear the thud reverberate because there's nothing underneath it. Nathan Drake has all these unique animations depending on what he's actually climbing on. I mean, look at this. Boom, unique animation. Now watch some dudes. Oh, what he did? He said, womma womma. You can drop way down onto a dude's head and say pop. Eventually you get this tool which lets you hook into walls, you rappel down ropes. When you're in a precarious spot, the camera really emphasizes it and makes you think, oh yeah,
why is
I'm
he
gonna die. The huge leaps feel so weighty and satisfying. Oh. And then there's the incredible clock tower sequence where you're jumping across moving gears and sliding through them. Don't get me wrong, the climbing is the weakest aspect of this game, but it's impressive how much love went into the weakest part of the game. What's cool about Uncharted 4 is that traversal is more than just climbing.
Bingo. Now we're in business.
In my old review, I said, put a goddamn grappling hook in every game from now on. Today, it is a legal requirement that every video game has to have a grappling hook. You're welcome.
Dude, that's literally, you know, this is actually a funny take because when I was younger, I used to love playing RPG games, right? And one thing I always wondered was like, why don't they just add RPG components to every fucking game? Okay. And then they made that happen. And I realized, boy, was I fucking wrong about that take. Another thing that I always wanted was like the open world sandbox feature. I thought to myself always, why isn't this in every game? Like this could be so much cooler. Okay. And then I realized, oh my God, I was so fucking wrong. Maybe it shouldn't be that way. It is a real monkey paw situation. And I think this is how... Another thing I thought was multiplayer. Yes, Chatter, you are correct. Another thing I was like, damn, this game would be so sick if you could play it in multiplayer. And then that's the last one of the monkey's paw. The third one that closed up. And it basically destroyed modern gaming. You are the consumer, that means we can't have nice things? Crafting features? No, that's too much of a Zoomer thing. Because I never actually played Minecraft, so I was never like, oh man, what if every game had crafting? I've never been like a big crafting guy. I feel like that's more of a Zoomer situation. Like, it's a post-Minecraft thing.
By combining this with the sliding mechanics, you get much more dynamic platforming than we've ever seen with this franchise.
Whoa! Made it.
There's also scuba diving. You drive a boat and a Jeep, and what's really messed up is how good the handling on the Jeep is. Kojima Productions has some of the most talented game developers in the industry, and even they were struggling with vehicle collision in Death Stranding. The terrain in Uncharted is similarly lopsided and hilly, and yet the Jeep can handle everything you throw at it. Rickety little bridges, sudden drop-offs, food stands, other Jeeps, roaring currents, large boulders. Somehow this rental Jeep can do it all.
For the record, I played this game for people who are saying, like, why don't you play Uncharted 4? I did. I finished it.
Death Stranding.
Yeah, see? Apollo Noir. Man, I watched you play this on stream with like 60 other people. Yeah.
The whole game is about using vehicles to deliver packages. Driving is fundamental to its gameplay. Uncharted is a shooter with 2 chapters where you drive a Jeep, and there are details Death Stranding could learn from this game, like how you gain more traction when driving on rocks instead of mud. As a shooter, Uncharted 4 is one of the most unconventionally paced. You don't actually do any shooting until Chapter 4 when Nathan starts blasting targets in his attic with a Nerf gun.
Bullseye.
Shootouts are sprinkled into this game more as a reward than a constant. It's a very gradual buildup that subliminally aligns the player with Nathan Drake's thirst for adventure, and by the time that it finally gets to the action, oh.
I mean, this game was pretty basic. I don't know why he's making this video, like, making it seem like it's a fucking incredible game. I'm sure there's a reason. Here's a clip of you driving the Jeep.
Hold on to something.
Okay, dude. Such a good time. I miss it so much. Yeah, it was definitely comfier back then.
7 years later, I am still waiting on AAA video games to look and play like this. However, what really sets Uncharted 4 apart is its strong storytelling, which is still today the rarest quality in video games. With most games, it seems like the developers make the levels and assets first, then the writers come in and try to string those things together in a coherent way. I don't know if that really is how games are written, but it would explain why most games have such stupid, nothing stories. Uncharted 4 feels uncompromised, like the writers came up with the craziest treasure hunt they could imagine, didn't even take into account how the studio would turn that into a video game, and then Naughty Dog actually did. For the first half of the game, every chapter takes place somewhere else. You start in an orphanage, then you're in a prison in Panama, now you're a scuba diver, now you gotta do a heist in Italy, now you gotta find the pirate's tomb in Scotland. Bad news, environment designers. The treasure is actually in Africa. Well, to be more specific, it's actually in a market.
It's like, it was very beautiful. But it was never like it's not like a life-changing experience.
Town in Madagascar. Well, actually, seeing is believing. What I love about Naughty Dog is how they illustrate their stories instead of spoon-feeding them to you through lazy exposition dumps. You aren't reading text logs about Henry Avery and Libertalia. No, it's all unfolding before your eyes. The ominous subtitle, A Thief's End, could be referring to a dozen different characters. This is a story about rummaging through the ruins of other people's stories. A letter from Chloe stowed away in the attic, Evelyn's lifeless manor full of priceless objects, Joseph Burns' abandoned cell, Henry Avery's elaborate trials and failed utopia. All of these stories contrast and overlap with Nathan Drake's own story, presenting hypothetical paths which he could have or could still go down. The characters here don't just spout off their deepest inner feelings. Instead, it's on the actors to communicate those emotions in a more subtle way through facial expression.
Washington Post released a new interesting article with more information on the migrant boat disaster. Have you covered this yet? Guys asked this question like fucking only this. He's only asked this question. I have not covered it, man. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay? I did not cover it. Okay, I don't know. I haven't seen it. Damn, I remember you playing this. Comes all back to mind now. Which year did you play this game? 2019, I think, is when I played it. It was before, I think it was before I went.
Body language and tone. What's magic about this style of storytelling is how it allows each player to come to their own conclusions. The lure of adventure beckons Nathan Drake out of his comfortable life, but just as he accomplishes his goal,
oh,
the thrill
2020
vanishes, reappearing in the dark
Is it
distance.
when it first
When
came
Sam
out?
unloads this insane story about breaking out of jail with Hector Alcazar, even on my first playthrough, I thought, yeah, this is total bullshit. Nathan knows his brother. He knows it's bullshit, but he wants to believe what he's hearing so much that he doesn't question it. Most people would be pretty envious of the life Nathan has set up. He's got a nice house, a job where he can still dig up treasure, a fridge full of beer, and a beautiful wife that loves Crash Bandicoot. Why? Why would you risk all of that? Of course, you push that question aside when Sully shows up and it starts feeling like a real deal Uncharted game. Just like Last of Us 2, the narrative tricks you into wanting to fulfill the selfish desires of its protagonist.
Chatter asking if I'm going to play more games. I have I have a political game coming up called 6 Days in Fallujah.
Players meant to feel like a hero, like your actions are saving the world. In Uncharted 4, you are ruining this man's marriage so that he can pretend to be Indiana Jones.
How is Elena cool with all this? Jesus, kid.
Uncharted 4 is masterful in how it sets its character motivations in conflict with each other. In Sam's mind, it's always been him and Nate versus the world since they were kids. Then Sully and Elena took him away. Ironically, this is how we perceive Sam. To us, he's the outsider. He wasn't there for Uncharted 1 where you had to shoot 300 zombies. He wasn't there for Uncharted 2 where you had to fight a Yeti. He wasn't there for Uncharted 3 where you had to go to Subway. We trust Sam about as much as Sully does. That rift between his father figures goes both ways.
Why are you here, Victor?
Because somebody's got to keep an eye out for him.
When Nathan discovers his brother is still alive, he spends all night recapping the entire Uncharted trilogy before remembering that he has a wife.
I'm married. I can't believe... Elena from the stories, that's my wife.
Sam Drake isn't a villain, but he brings out the worst part of his brother, and it's not until he finally teams up with Elena that Nathan starts stepping out of the shadow of Henry Avery. St. Dismas said, "We receive the due rewards of our deeds." But do we? Did the gullible optimist of Libertalia deserve such a harrowing fate? Does Sam deserve Nate? And does Nate deserve Sully and Elena? Uncharted blurs the past with present in many ways, challenging us to split the difference. One more time, the camera pans out from Crash Bandicoot, which does not have a scoring system, by the way, to reveal Cassandra Drake. This ending, man, dude, this is the most fulfilling, joyous ending I have ever experienced in a video game, and it's one that takes on a whole new context for me now that me and Leah are having our own daughter. Because this was actually a baby video the whole time. We having a baby, everybody.
Did I miss it? That there was something in there?
To split the difference. One more time, the camera pans out from Crash Bandicoot, which does not have a scoring system, by the way, to reveal Cassandra Drake. This ending, man, dude, this is the most fulfilling, joyous ending I have ever experienced in a video game, and it's one that takes on a whole new context for me now that me and Leah are having our own daughter. Because this was actually a baby video the whole time. We having a baby, everybody.
Wow. Donkey's about to have his Boruto, dude. He's about to have his own Boruto to his Naruto.